So Tresham College would like to welcome Andrew Pepper. Thank you very much. Andrew's taken the journey in from Cambridge to see us today. He's got a really interesting story. Behind the camera, we've got over 50 learners of level 1, level 2 full-time learners, and our apprentices are on the top looking down at what we're doing today. Andrew, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
And thank you for taking that time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah.
A busy schedule that has only just changed you from being a trainee and now into a qualified electrician.
Indeed.
Can you tell us something about that journey? Because you don't look 16, 17, 18 or 19, if you don't mind me saying. You're a little bit older maybe.
No, I really did sort of like stumble into this kind of trade really. I was very unwell for basically about 6-7 years. Started to obviously get my health back up and running, and I got to that point where you get into that age and it's like, I need a goal, I need something to continue. I don't want the mundane jobs of office. I was quite good with my hands because that's what I used to do. I used to work for John Lewis doing installs on home entertainment systems. Okay. So there was a bit of knowledge there and that side of things. So currently my boss at the moment knew myself and said, do you want to come and work for me for a little while? I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go.
Can we put an age on that moment in life?
At that time, I was 33.
Right, so I think when you get to 33, you've probably got a few family commitments maybe, or at least a property commitment.
Yep.
Is that something you have?
Mortgages, bills, car, everything like that. So obviously, some of you guys, when you go onto that apprentice money, you think, oh, that's not too bad. But when you've got to pay mortgages and bills, £3.30, £3.70 is awful. So luckily, I had a very good boss and literally started me on not a fantastic wage, but enough so I could pay my bills at home. So I didn't quite have that worry of doing an apprenticeship and not being able to afford it. Unfortunately, when you start off at my age, you have to pay for your whole thing through college.
Right. So you paid for your qualification.
Yes.
How much did that set you back?
I think initially that was £1,500 straight off the bat, and that got you all your qualifications and your AM2 exam.
Okay, that was too bad.
And luckily with the college I was at, CRC, if you then failed your AM2, they still put you through for your resits.
Okay.
So it's...
Just to clarify for the people in front of us, AM2 being your end skills test of your apprenticeship. So you'll do a 3-4-year apprenticeship encompassing a document about the work that you've done over that time. They used to call it an MVQ, it's not now, it's just a documentation of work. And then you have to do a 2.5-day skills test?
3 days.
3-day skills test, and only at the end of that of which you can pass or get a credit, a distinction, or is it just
no,
pass
just
or
straight
fail?
pass and fail. You literally finish your AM2 and either that night or the next night at 8 o'clock on the dot you get an email, you log into it and it will show you your 7 sections of what you failed and what you've passed. That is it.
So when we're, especially the lads that we're going to talk about extensively later on, and maybe we'll record that video, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it? It's not a driving test, is it? It's not 1 hour, can you drive a car, which you really want to do. We're talking a 3-day assessment to say that you can be a qualified electrician. And of course, then we know the money goes up and obviously we go off on our journey. So don't think when you finish college, and I'm sure Andrew will agree with this, that it's over. You've got to get through that AM2 and then lifelong learning afterwards, isn't it?
Basically what my boss said, he goes, you pass your AM2, then you start learning. Like when you're driving. Yeah. As soon as you've passed through your test, you start learning. And my boss says you're a competent electrician at least 2-3 years after you've passed your AM2. You can do the job, but it's when you can go out on a job and literally look at a job and go, I know what to do, I know this, I know that, and you're not contacting them quite as much for that verification. It's having that confidence to do it as well. But
so with the people in front of me not being quite as old as you,
no.
Do you think they made a really good decision to try and embrace it at a younger age?
Definitely. If I could go back in time, I'd say I'd be like these lads and do it. But again, at that time in life, I didn't really know what to do. It took a few life experiences to think, right, I want to do this. And it's a fantastic job. From one day you'll be with a nice old lady and she brings you a cup of tea and a biscuit while you're just changing the socket, and the next day you'll be traipsing through a dike trying to sort a mains cable coming into a building. It's so varied and it's an amazing job. Yes, it is hard graft, but when you get home at the end of that day and you are shattered and you're like, I've just wider house, someone's got power, they're now watching TV, they're now this. It's just so fulfilling in that sense.
And when you've had other jobs away from the electrical industries, you appreciate more. So we've got people in front of us that probably won't appreciate other styles of working because they're actually working towards being, hopefully, all of us electricians, and they won't have had that, oh, I remember when I did moment. You know, I was working in John Lewis and somebody was moaning that the socks didn't fit, and now all of a sudden you're actually, you know, constructing wiring systems out of your own knowledge. That's really good. So it's a little bit of a backstory of what took Andrew from an adult learner through to completing his apprenticeship, okay, and obviously we're now trying to do it from a younger person's point of view. So I think this is the time we can open it up to a few questions from the floor. So let's see who's got a question that I'd like to ask Andrew. So we've got one down here, nice and loud, Lewis.
What's your favourite thing to do,
so
job-wise?
What's your favourite job to do then?
If I'm honest, and it probably people will hate, it's still conduit.
Yeah,
There's nothing more satisfying. Literally, I was in my first job. We went out to do some groves and I had to put about 100 metres worth in, literally straight off the bat. And when you stand back and go, yeah, I've done that, and it looks good and it looks nice. I prefer commercial, if I'm perfectly honest. Don't get me wrong, house bashing and things like that, you're learning your skills, you're learning your two ways, you're learning your consumer units. But when you get to commercial, I think you've got to think a lot more about it. You've got to look at your volt drops in your cables. All commercial is just, it's on a bigger scale, and I think you personally, in me, you get so much more satisfaction when you just stand back and you're like, yeah, I've done that, wow.
And I like containment systems, you can see. So if you rewire a house and it's buried in fabric of building,
no one sees it.
You mess the
you
place
see your
up.
domestic board and that's it. That's
absolutely.
all the customer sees, really.
Really good question. So still conduit. And when we get to it, a lot of people call it can't do it. So we'll give you conduit to start with. You can't get the right bend, you leave a burr on it, your thread's bad, and people got to start putting their hands in the head. It is an easy skill to get, but once you've got it, it's a lovely one to install. Yeah, just install. Loud at the back, sir.
Would you prefer industrial or domestic electrician?
Sounds very similar to what we just had, but do you prefer, if you were choosing between industrial and domestic, not commercial, which you said you like, which one would you pick out of those two?
I'd go industrial all day long.
So,
don't get me wrong, I love working in people's houses and interact at that side, but I just prefer the big installs, really. I prefer three-phase boards, mainly because it's just, they're easier to work on to start with. And there's a lot more room and a lot better systems, I feel.
And what we've got here is, obviously, the younger people in front of us, they're desperate to work in a house. So they see, someone talking some lights is the thing. However, when I was doing it, I did that at the weekends, maybe, obviously claiming the tax and all the rest of it, just to get that. How far can they go back? But I used to do that at the weekends, but I was in commercial industrial working a week. You don't want to lift floorboards. You don't want to, bend underneath toilets all day, every day. You don't want to be crawling through lofts. No, half the year it's roasting up there, things like that. So at the moment, I know you think you do, but once we get off the domestic wiring systems, which we will do on about week 12, we start looking at conduit and trunking, etc. You'll think, oh, this is a lot easier, a lot better. It holds its position. It's easy to fabricate, etc. Thank you. Next question. Got any at the top as well? Come on, apprentices. At the top, nice and loud, Ben.
How did you find doing AM2 exam? Did you feel like it was like a whole day's rather work?
So he's asked, how do you find doing the AM2 exam, which we're going to come back to, but the time. Let's look at the time factors involved.
We were just discussing this on our coffee break. No coffee mentioned. It's the time issue. When you go to do your AM2, you've proved at college you can do the theory, you've proved you can do your practical. It's just the sheer pressure of doing it to time. When you're on site, yes, you've got to get that house done by the end of the time, but you can stay an hour later or things like that. On that AM2, you have got literally a stop clock right next to your room, and when you finish your install, you're like that, and you're like, it's the pressure of the time. If you can handle the time and apply yourself, the AM2 is a lot more simple, but it is a stressful 3 days. There's no getting around it. It is a stressful thing.
And you've got some lovely information to feed on. And we're going to do that with you separately, just because the guys below us are not even close to getting to that point, but we'll get there. So if we can record that, we've got some lovely tips that we're going to try and pass on to you. And we've spoke about it on the phone for some time. I've got another question for us down here on the ground or upstairs? Upstairs. Give us a nice loud one.
Have you had to use smart technology?
Oh, have you used much smart technology?
Yes and no. Obviously, I've dealt with the Nest systems in houses and the Hive and things like that. And to be fair, it's not much to them. They are just simply a Wi-Fi receiver and a thermostat. It's just the wiring is exactly the same as the hardwired systems.
Oh, right.
It's just all Wi-Fi. My friend who I went to college with, Callum, he does a system called Control 4, which is extremely high end, which that is fully automated. If you have, they're like £90 a switch. You can run everything from your iPad. It's very clever. But some of the grow rooms we do is BMS control systems. So
that's not for marijuana though. Before we get
no, that's
they're
not.
all thinking they're thinking grow rooms. They're thinking wow.
No, this is for like sugar beet
better.
and things like that, where basically these guys are testing all different environments and things through grow rooms.
Okay.
So the BMS side of things is all smart technology, but in a commercial side of things. So the problem with that sort of system, you can get a call out on a fault. You can spend hours and hours and hours trying to find an electrical fault to then find at the end of it, it's a software fault. So smart technology has its place, but so does hardwiring something. As us as electricians, going to a hardwired system, you're trained to know what the faults are. But you go to a bit of software, it opens a whole new can of worms.
But I've been saying to these lot that we should be looking at the third fix. So we install the wiring systems cables, we second fix the accessories, whether they be smart or not. Third fix to be maybe where the next real growth is financially for the electrical industry.
And adding to that, when you go out to a customer's house, it's that interaction with the customer, spending that extra 5-10 minutes at the end to explain to them that it's working, and that's when you'll get people coming back to you because, oh, he sat there for an extra 20 minutes explaining it to me, and then you'll walk them through it, especially with Hive and things like that, where people are just used to pressing advanced or turning the thermostat. They do it all off their phone now.
And it's upselling as well. If you think, okay, after the second fire alarm we just had, which is really good timing, we were just at the point where we said about upselling.
Yep.
So you go into a domestic dwelling, the people behind me, this is a good upsell for you. They want in sockets, maybe LED downlighters, etc. And we may be thinking about switches that work with no cables and no batteries, maybe working on kinetic energy, which feels a little bit smart, but maybe we can upsell some stuff, can't we? We look at, the Hive thermostat's an easy upsell, isn't it? So all of a sudden people are having the house rewired and not replacing like for like, light in each room, socket in each room, etc. That after it they get the ability to have some connectivity through maybe either Bluetooth, maybe radio frequency, or maybe actually the Wi-Fi system itself. Okay, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate your time. Thank you.